and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. That's how Jonathan is introduced. It's just an assumed thing. It's Jonathan. You knew who Jonathan is. He's there. We know later on, it gets explained that that's his son, Jonathan. But at this point, the first time his name comes up, he is just already the right-hand man to Saul as far as going into battle. So Saul has got with him 2,000 people, and he gives the rest under Jonathan, and they're in Gibeah of Benjamin. And the rest of the people he sent away, every man to his tent. You guys go home. We're going to get into this battle. With whom? They're still fighting with the Philistines. And so we go to verse 3. And Jonathan attacked the garrison of the Philistines that was in Gibeah. Now we don't know. Did Saul tell him to attack that? Or did he not tell him to do it? Did he do it on his own? There's somewhat of a feeling, and we're seeing the story we're really going to look at today, that we have a very impetuous person here in Jonathan. Not because he just thinks better of himself, but he trusts so much into God that he really goes to act very quickly when situations arise from that. What we know here is he attacked a garrison of them, an encampment of them, of the Philistines. And the Philistines heard that he had done that. Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." Now all Israel heard. They all heard. What did they hear? That Saul had attacked the garrison of the Philistines. And here that Jonathan attacked it. Little different situation later on when another guy does some of the battle and takes the credit over Saul, right? When David does it. In this case, the credit is given to Saul, even though we don't even know that Saul made the commandment for him to do it. It was Jonathan that chose to do that. And that Israel had also become an abomination to the Philistines. They were really mad at him now. You come and attack us. We're not going to be pleased with that. And so the people called together to Saul at Gilgal. Then the Philistines gathered together to fight with Israel. All right, what little group did they have there? Remember, we had like 3,000 to begin with Saul. He called together the people. He may have more than that here, but let's see. What are the Philistines? The Philistines gathered together to fight with Israel. 30,000 chariots, not 30,000 people, 30,000 chariots. 6,000 horsemen, 6,000 men on horse, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. I'm thinking they're outnumbered. Just my thought. I may be wrong. And they came up and encamped in Michmash to the east of Beth-aven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in danger, all these people out there, for the people were distressed, did they just stay brave and said, "God's with us"? And no, what do? Then the people hid in caves and thickets and rocks and holes and pits. They hid out as best they could so they couldn't even see where they were. They didn't go in and close the door to their house and hide inside of that. They found places out in nature to hide. And some of the Hebrews even crossed over the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. They got out of the country. They left town because of the problems. As for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him, doing what? They were trembling. They had great fear. So, whether it was commanded or not, Jonathan's attacked the Philistines. The Philistines have gotten mad. Now it's kind of like prodding the hornet's nest. And the people's reaction to it is, oh my gosh, the Philistines are angry. We're in big trouble here. So they're out hiding out, and which ones are still with Saul? They're trembling. They're in fear from that. Then he waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So he waits for God's prophet to come, the judge to come, to support him and to be able to talk to God, make sure God's going to be with him. And Samuel takes more time than he said he's going to take, and the people, get out further. Now this is when we run into Saul making his first sin or error that causes him to lose the kingship from that. We have the people that are scared from that, and Saul is looking to assure them. He wants to do the right things to give them encouragement. So he wants Samuel to come, sacrifice to God, and say, God says he's with us, let's go. We're going to go in battle from that. Samuel doesn't show up when he's supposed to. Saul does what? He gets impatient. And that impatience leads to a sin. He just chooses to say, well, I need to do something to encourage the people. I can't get Samuel here. I will do the sacrificing. According to God's law? No, that's not according to God's law. He's not a priest. He's not allowed to do that. But he does that because he's just trying to make things happen from that. And out of that, he loses his legacy. He's not going to keep the kingship. It's not going to pass down to Jonathan from here. He'll sin again later on, and that will be repeated, but here he knows that that's what he's lost out of that. So that's where we are. We've got the Philistines mad. We've got Jonathan who stirred the hornet's nest. The people are all scattered everywhere, scared to death from that. Saul has made the mistake in trying to encourage him going ahead and sinning, losing the kingship from that. And that's kind of where we get. So now we go on with the story after that bit fits in. Then Samuel arose and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. This is after he had come and told him, you've lost the kingship because you sinned. And Saul numbered the people present with him. Oh, it's that 2,000 or the 3. No, it's about 600 men. That seems fair, doesn't it? They've got people, the multitude as of the sands of the seashore, and he's got 600 men. Saul, Jonathan his son, and the people present with him remained in Gibeah of Benjamin. So Jonathan's right there with him. But the Philistines camped in Michmash, and then the raiders came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. So they broke up in 3 companies. One company turned the road to Ophrah, to the land of Shual. Another company turned to the road of Beth-horon. Another company turned to the road of the border that overlooks the valley of Zeboim, toward the wilderness. Now, you want to get your army together, you need to have weapons for that. 19 says this is a problem. Why? 19 says, now there were no blacksmith to be found throughout all the land of Israel. Couldn't get anybody to make you a sword or shield or anything that took metal. Why was that? For the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make swords or spears. They made sure you couldn't do it. You're not going to have anybody that has that capability. You're not going to have any forges or anything here that you can make any kind of weapons from. So not only does he only have 600 men, 600 men, but he has a problem with weapons from that. How severe is that problem? Now there was no blacksmith to be found throughout all the land of Israel. We've already got that one. But all the Israelites would go down to the Philistines to sharpen each man's plowshare, his mattock, his axe, and his sickle. And the charge for sharpening was a pim for the plowshares, the mattocks, the forks, the axes, and to set the points of the goads. Why we know the amount of cost it was, I don't know. That seems like a kind of an aside that somebody just kind of threw in and thought it was curious. Someday they may want to know how much it costs. They still needed blacksmiths just to take care of working the land. And so there were blacksmiths, but they were Philistines. So they would do that, but they would not make you a sword. They were not going to do that from that. And so how was it in verse 22? So it came about on the day of battle, when they're going to battle the Philistines, that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan. Those 600 people only have 600. None of them have a weapon. Not a normal weapon, not a good weapon. They have a club or anything that they can grab, a pitchfork, whatever they had handy to be able to do a battle with, but not the normal battle materials from that. But they were found with Saul and Jonathan, his son. The benefits of royalty, I guess. Jonathan and Saul have swords from that. And so the garrison of the Philistines went out to the pass of Michmash. So this is where Jonathan's going to again decide to engage the Philistines. A little less antagonistic in some ways, a little more brave in some ways from that. So we're in 1 Samuel now, chapter 14. Now it happened one day that Jonathan, now we know who he is, the son of Saul. We've had him mentioned a couple times, and he could have been just his commander-in-chief of the army for all we knew. But now it says Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man who bore his armor. He's got that man with him at all times. That guy is, his aide, his sidekick, whatever you want to think of it. And he said to him, come, let us go over to the Philistines' garrison. Let's go over there. We've done this before. We've gone over the garrison. Let's go over again. That is on the other side. But what did he not do? He did not tell his father. Impetuous? Yeah. Very impetuous. We don't know whether Saul sent him the first time, but we know Saul didn't even know about it the second time. So did he take his 1,000 people? Well, there's only 600 to begin with. So who goes? Jonathan, his armor bearer. That's who goes over to see about the garrison. 2 men. And Saul was sitting in the outskirts of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree, which is in Migron. And the people who were with him were about 600 men. Well, at least he hadn't lost any since the last time we got a count, so that's good. Ahijah, the son of Hatib, Ichabod's brother, and the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, was wearing an ephod. But the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Why was it important to mention that Eli was wearing an ephod? What was the significance of the ephod here? Communication to God, right? They had the ability to get God's input to things because he was there with an ephod, but they didn't use it. He didn't get that information from that. So they didn't know. God didn't tell them that Jonathan had gone, and he didn't tell his dad that he had gone. He apparently told nobody. He just talked to his armor bearer. So Saul's sitting around with just 600 men, whole army is out there, broken in 3 companies in 3 different areas. And they're trying to figure out his army has no weapons of normal type, no swords, no spears. Just Jonathan and him have them. That's the situation. Between the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over to the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on one side and a sharp rock on the other side. A lot of sharp rocks apparently in that area. And the name of one was Boziz, something like that, and the name of the other Sinai. And the front of one faced northward opposite Michmash, and the other southward opposite Gibeah. Then Jonathan said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised, these ones that are not Jews, that are not God's people. It may be that the Lord will work for us, that he'll be with us, that we'll do things. For why? For nothing restrains the Lord from saving by many or by few." Does Jonathan have much faith in God? Jonathan has tremendous faith in God. How many people are going over to the garrison? Let's count them again. 1, 2. Not even the 600. 2. And Jonathan says, I'm not worried about it. If God's with us, we're okay. The 2 of us can handle the situation. He has tremendous faith. He may be impetuous, but a lot of that's driven by his complete faith in God to be with him. So his armor bearer said to him, "Do all that is in your heart. Go then, here I am, with you, according to your heart." The armor bearer has complete faith, not just in God, but more importantly, he has more complete faith in his master, in his leader. He has complete faith that Jonathan has that connection to God. If he says this is the right thing to do and that he's comfortable with it, seems like a crazy thing to me. I've looked around. There's nobody else with us. It's just me and Jonathan. He's got a sword. Me, I'm going to hand it to him. That's my part of having the sword. But he thinks we should go over there, and God, the Lord, may actually be able to save our nation by many. But he's going to maybe save it by as few as just the 2 of us here from that. But he shows complete faith and trust in Jonathan. That's his statement, here I am. I'm here with you. It's this crazy idea. How many of us would have sat there and go, yeah, Jonathan, great idea. Let's go. Let's go over and prod this garrison of Philistines that's already mad at us. You've already gone a hornet's nest. And if they realize it's you and any of those who were at the other one, they're really mad at you. But yeah, this is a great idea. I'm going to come along. This will be fun. I didn't have anything better to do this afternoon anyway, so let's just go try to take care of some of them from that. But he says, if that's what's in your heart, I'm going to be supportive of you from that. So who asked the question in this case? Well, like the last one with Caleb, at least there was no question, nor was there question the last time that Samuel said those words. Just a declaration in this case of a commitment by the armor bearer, a commitment to go with and to be supportive of Jonathan. He wanted to show Jonathan that he fully trusted him. He didn't say, I too believe that God's going to save by few. He didn't say that. He said, do what's in your heart. I trust you, Jonathan. It's you that I'm following into this battle. So he wanted Jonathan to know, you can count on me. Whatever you choose to do, if you choose to go after them, you choose not to go after them, I'm there for you. Not just because it's my job, because you're really kind of putting me out there when it's just the 2 of us going to do something. So was not on the application when I filled it out that 2 of us were going to go battle a garrison. I would have read that. It wasn't even in the fine print of our agreement between us. But I had the faith in you, and I want you to know I've got that faith. Here I am. I'm ready to go with you. So Jonathan takes that feedback from his armor bearer, and he says, very well. Let us cross over to these men, and we will show ourselves to them. We're not going to sneak up on them. We're going to go out there and go, here we are. If they say thus to us, wait until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place and not go up to them. Now, he didn't say, if they say that, we will run. So don't think he wasn't necessarily thinking they were still going to fight him. It's a question of where they're going to fight him. We won't go to them. If they say, come on, we'll come to you. He said, but if they say thus, come up to us, then we will go up. Why? Because that's a sign. I believe that they say that. I've set this out. This is a sign. That means, for the Lord has delivered them into our hand. This will be a sign to us. I'll definitely know we're going to win. Like you say, he didn't say, we're not going to fight them if they say they're going to come to us. He didn't say that. He didn't say we're going to run. He just said we're not going to move. We won't go to them. We'll stay here. But he fully believes they're going to ask for him to come up there. And that when they do, that's God's sign to him and to his armor bearer that they're going to be victorious. Just the two of them when they go into that battle. So the both of them showed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines. I don't know what they did. Did they sound like, hey, we're over here? I don't know. Hey, guys, how you doing? A couple of Israelites over here. Just wanted you to know we're right here. If you wanted some Israelites. They showed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines, and the Philistines said, look, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have hidden. And they're not saying that as a hyperbole. That's true. The Hebrews were hiding in holes and thickets and anything they could find to hide in. So that was true. It wasn't just saying they're trying not to battle with us or somewhere else. They physically were hiding into them. And then the men in the garrison called to Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, come up to us. There's the sign. Jonathan said this is what God's going to tell us if he wants us to go there and battle him. He's going to have him do that. And it says, and we will show you something. Got something special for you. You want to come and see this. This is going to be good. Come on up here and see this. Yeah, don't worry about what's going to happen. We just want to show you something. It's really cool. Yeah, I don't think that was fooling anybody from that they wanted to show him something. He knew what was going to happen when he went up there from that. And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, come up after me, for the Lord has delivered them into the hand of Israel. Into the 2 or 4 hands of Israel is what he's turned them into from that. And Jonathan climbed up on his hands and knees with his armor bearer after him. They're up on top of this hill, this mountain kind of thing, and they're going up very vulnerable. They can roll rocks or whatever while they're trying to go up there on their hands and their knees to get up there. And his armor bearer did the same thing. And they fell before Jonathan. Who? The Philistines. And as he came after him, his armor bearer killed him. And that first slaughter with Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men within a half an acre of land. I didn't kill thousands of them, but they killed 20 of them, just the 2 of them. Another magnitude more than they were. They killed them. The armor bearer did it with who knows what. He didn't have a sword. Maybe he had used the spear. I don't know. But the 2 of them were able to kill them in a very small plot of land. They weren't running around and hiding behind trees and then sneaking out and hitting them or something. They're in a fairly small amount of area, a half an acre, and they killed about 20 men within that half an acre. Jonathan was right. God was with him. There's no way 2 guys should have killed 20 and the whole garrison be there. What's the result of that? And there was trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. What people? The Philistines. They're all now trembling. Good grief. 2 men, 20 of us. One is just an armor bearer. Come on. He's not even supposed to be a battle person. The garrison and the raiders also trembled, and the earth quaked. Not only were they scared, but God made the earth quake from it, just to add to it. So it was a very great trembling, with everybody trembling, the Philistines, and the land trembling at the same time, quaking. Now the watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and there was the multitude. What multitude? The Philistines, remember? As the sands of the seashore are out there, they're melting. They're melting away. And they went here and there. Then Saul said to the people who were with him, now call the roll. He knows something's happened. It didn't just happen accidentally. And see who has gone from us. Remember, he doesn't know who went. Let's call the roll. There's only 602 of us. Well, 603, I guess, with the armor bearer, Mary. I don't know. Call the roll. Let's figure it out. And when they called the roll, surprisingly, really? Surprisingly? Who caused the other battle? Why is it a surprise? I don't know why it's surprisingly, but it's Jonathan and his armor bearer who were not there. Saul now knows who did it. Now he's got to deal with his son's behavior, his impetuous stuff. He started something up. We all got to finish it from that. And Saul said to Ahijah, bring the ark of God here. For at that time the ark of God was with the children of Israel. So he's going to follow that idea they did when they lost the ark. Remember? God's going to be with us if we take the ark. Did we ask God if we should take the ark? No, we did not. What happened that time to the ark? The Philistines took the ark. They may not want to take it this time because of how it turned out for them last time, but it wasn't a great idea, and he's not really trying to get it from God at this point. He's going to it. Well, unfortunately, cooler heads prevail. Now, it happened when Saul talked to the priest that the noise that was in the camp of the Philistines continued to increase, and so Saul said to the priest, withdraw your hand. Don't do it. Now, I don't know whether he did that because he felt like, he shouldn't do it, or he felt like it was already underway and they needed to just take advantage of it. Don't take time for waiting for the ark to get here. Let's not take that action. Let's go ahead and proceed because it's getting more and more noise of the Philistines. It's more and more the opportunity. It may be lost if we waste time. I don't know what he did from that, but he doesn't take the ark with him. And then Saul and all the people who were with him assembled, that big, huge number of 600, and they went into the battle. Indeed, every man's sword was against his neighbor. Who's got swords? Philistines. Not the Israelites, remember? Only 2 people among the Israelites have swords. When it talks about swords against their neighbor, it's the Philistines are fighting each other, which God used quite frequently, didn't he? Get the enemy confused and they would kill each other. And that's what's happening there from that. And there was great confusion. Quaking, trembling. You're now killing your neighbor because you don't know who's your enemy. You're totally confused about what's going on there. Moreover, the Hebrews who were with the Philistines before that time, that was really loyal Hebrews, I guess. I don't know whether they were there out of choice or they were there because they've been captured. Doesn't, again, speak to why they're there, but there are Hebrews that are there with the Philistines who went up with them into the camp from the surrounding country. Sounds to me like they went up there and said, we're your friends, don't kill us. We'll hang out with you, we'll be your servants here. That's more like what I think. They also joined the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. So there's more than 600 now. And likewise, all the men of Israel who had hidden in the mountains of Ephraim, all those ones hiding in the clefts and the caves and the holes, when they heard the Philistines fled, they also followed hard after them in battle. Now they have bravery. Now they believe that God's with them. They didn't turn and ask for God to be with them, but now that they see that, they're willing to take and be a part of that. And so who saved Israel that day? The Lord saved Israel that day. Not Jonathan and his armor bearer. Not all the people that suddenly came together to fight the Philistines. The Lord did that, both in making it to where Jonathan and his armor bearer could be so successful and adding the confusion where the Philistines killed themselves and the battle shifted to Bethaven. So now we've got that ability, we've got that situation underway. We've got some success. And Jonathan and his armor bearer there, and his armor bearer willing to follow Jonathan. But Jonathan, we'll put it in quotes, sins. 1 Samuel 14, starting next verse, 24. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had placed the people under oath. He'd make them all promise. He said, saying, cursed is the man who eats any food until evening. You can't eat anything before I have taken vengeance on my enemy. Who's got to take vengeance? It's personal. Me, Saul. I need my vengeance. Is it about God and God's people? No, it's about me, Saul. You're not going to eat anything until I have got my success. Until everybody knows that Saul returned, gave retribution for the things the Philistines had done. Not quite the right attitude. So the people were very obedient. So none of the people tasted food. They're fighting all day, exhausting doing that stuff, and nobody tastes anything. So God puts in a situation. Now all the people of the land came to a forest, and there was honey on the ground. Sure, that's pretty normal, right? You've all found honey lying around on the ground. It's a normal type of thing. I'm sure God had nothing to do with that. But there's honey on the ground. When the people had come into the woods, there was honey dripping. But they're faithful people to their king. No one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath that they had made to Saul. But Jonathan, remember, he wasn't with his dad. He was over there fighting a garrison with just the armor bearer, so he didn't know anything about it. So Jonathan's hungry. He had not heard his father charge the people with the oath. So what does he do? Therefore he stretched out the end of the rod that was his hand. He dipped it in a honeycomb. He put his hand to his mouth, and immediately his countenance was brightened. There was a difference in him, a strengthening from that. We see that in other places. You may remember Daniel and his friends when they took the food that God wanted them to have versus what the king wanted them to have in captivity, their countenance brightened. His countenance brightened, as it would with anybody. I'm worn out. Give me some sustenance. I'm going to do better if I've got some more food, some more fuel, some more ability to have energy to do the battling that I'm going to do. So it's a positive thing. It works out very positively for Jonathan. But it is against the oath that the people in general have made. All the people except for two, Jonathan and his armor bearer. They weren't there. And, well, not just two, probably, because there's all those other people that came from other places. They apparently may have known about what was going on. Then, of course, there's the tattletale. Then one of the people said, your father strictly charged the people with an oath, saying, cursed is the man who eats food this day. I told you, now you're in trouble. Daddy's going to be mad because he said not to do that. But what's the situation? And the people were faint. They were really, running out of gas, so to speak. But Jonathan said, my father has troubled the land. This isn't a good thing that my father asked. This has not worked out well for the people. This is troubling. He said, look, now, how my countenance is brightened because I tasted just a little of a honey. How much better if the people had eaten freely today, how much better would they be, how much more strength would we have if we had eaten of the spoil as we took it from the people? The spoil of their enemies which they found. For now would there not have been a much greater slaughter among the Philistines? We'd had more energy, we'd have been able to do it better. Now they had driven back the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon, and so the people were very faint. So the point keeps being made. They've done a great job, but they're really paying the price in how they're feeling. And if they just would eat, then it would be better. But of course, people take that as a thing to do, but they, as any time you give them a little bit of space, they're going to go too far with it. And so the people rushed on the spoil and took sheep, oxen, and calves. They slaughtered them on the ground, and the people ate them with the blood. God's laws through Moses. Are you to eat blood? No. You're not to eat the blood. So then there's again the tattletales going. And they told Saul, look, the people are sinning against the Lord by eating with the blood. They're going ahead and doing that. Now, does he say, okay, I told you not to eat, everybody stop eating? He knows that cat's out of the bag. There's no way. You can't bring them back in now. They're hungry. They know that there's food to be eaten from that. You're not going to stop that. What do you do want to stop? I want to stop the sinning portion of that. That's one thing where Saul shows some wisdom from that. And he says, you have dealt treacherously. Roll a large stone to me this day. A stone has a purpose. And it comes up next. He says, and Saul said, disperse yourself among the people and say to them, bring me here every man's ox and every man's sheep. Slaughter them here and eat. Slaughter them on this big rock that I've got. And do not sin against the Lord by eating with the blood. I'm not stopping you from eating anymore. That's That's no way to pull that one back. Once it's gotten, the genie's gotten out of the bottle, we got to let it go. But I don't want the sinning with the blood from that. And so every one of the people brought his ox with him that night and slaughtered it there. Everybody wanted some sustenance. Everybody needed some. And he's not going to kill them all because they broke the oath from that. Then Saul built an altar to the Lord. Now this is the first altar that he built to the Lord. Now Saul said, let us go down after the Philistines by night. All right, you ate some, you fought all day long, you killed them, you moved them back, but let's go ahead and fight them some more. Because I want my vengeance, right? It's about me again. So let's go down there tonight, plunder them until the morning light, and let us not leave a man of them. And again, the people being very obedient, and they said, do whatever seems good to you. And again, a cooler head. Then the priest said, let us draw near to God here. Let's not do this, Saul, before you ask God. You've made that mistake before. Just because you want to do it doesn't mean that's what we need to do. So Saul asked counsel of God, shall I go down after the Philistines? Will you deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he did not answer him that day. Now, God's not in a good relationship with Saul anyway. Saul did that sacrificing, and he doesn't really seem to be wanting to talk to Saul, period. So it's not necessarily a surprise. Was the fact that he didn't answer him a message of anything other than, wait or whatever? Well, it was to Saul. Saul took that as an answer. He interpreted God's silence. So he said, and Saul said, come over here, all you chiefs of the people, and know and see what this sin was today. Obviously, that's what we're supposed to do. God doesn't want us to do it. It's all because of sin. We all know what went wrong. I made an oath. You guys broke the oath. Now we won't go down there and wipe them out, and God's not with us. So let's find out what the sin was from that. Now, as we do that, we know who's the sinning one. So let's take a real retrospective, even forward look at who Jonathan was, the one that's going to be pointed out from that. What kind of person was he? Well, we find him to be fairly impetuous. We don't know for certain that the first time he attacked the garrison that he did that without orders, but we don't get the feeling necessarily that Saul told him to do it. We certainly know that Saul didn't tell him to take his armor bearer and go and antagonize the garrison the second time. He went and did those things on his own. He went and ate because he was hungry on his own. He didn't seek to find out whether it's right. But he was a leader. He was already a leader. Saul put him in charge of a third of his force originally. He certainly was a leader for his armor bearer from that. He was very faithful to God. He took his actions, impetuous as they may be, in full belief that he was doing God's will and that God would be with him. That he could save by few just as easy as he could do it by many. He was also fairly humble. He always turned and made the direction to God. God did this. He didn't say, look what I've done. Look at the battles I've led. Look what I did to the Philistines. We don't get any sense of that. And we find him very loyal and loving. We can see that somewhat in the relationship with the armor bearer. We see that later on, which we don't have time to look in here, but we all know about the story of David, how close he was. And even when Saul, his father, wanted to kill David, and even when David's declared to be the next king, which means Jonathan's not going to be, he's still loyal. He's still loving. Very connected from that. But what's going to come out? We'll pick up the story with Saul again. Now he wants to have the sin figured out. For as the Lord lives, who saves Israel, though it be in Jonathan my son, he shall surely die. I'm throwing him under the bus. Does he not know who did it? I'm pretty sure he knows who's behind it. It's the guy that's been impetuous before. But not a man among the people of all the people answered him. Nobody said, you're right. Absolutely. Kill him if it's him. They all knew who it was. But they didn't agree with him in this case. The people have been so obedient to do whatever he said. Then he said to all Israel, you be on one side, and my son Jonathan and I will be on the other side. And the people said to Saul, do what seems good to you. Go ahead. Therefore Saul said to the Lord God of Israel, give a perfect lot. Now he knows how this is going to turn out. He didn't pick a bunch of people. He didn't divide the people more. He drew two groups. We got all the people of Israel and me and my son. Which one is it? Me and my son or them? He knows it's Jonathan. And guess what? Saul and Jonathan were taken, but the people, they escaped. And Saul said, cast lots between my son Jonathan and me. And Guess what? Jonathan was taken. He knew that was it. He knew it wasn't him. Then Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what you have done. And Jonathan told him and said, I only tasted a little honey on the end of a rod that was in my hand. So now I must die. He's willing. As foolish as it seems. I didn't know about it. Of course, ignorance is not, an excuse under the law, right? And that's the situation here from that. He says, I guess I'm going to have to die because I broke the oath that I didn't even know we had. And Saul answered, God do so and more also, for you shall surely die, Jonathan. He doesn't really have a whole lot of love in his heart, does he? We see that later on when all the things that David did for him, and then he goes to kill him. And one day, when Jonathan stands up for him to some extent, even though he's his right-hand person for Saul, he throws a spear trying to kill his own son. He's not really a great person from that. But what happens? The people said to Saul, shall Jonathan die, who has accomplished this great deliverance in Israel? Certainly not. We're not going to stand for it. As the Lord lives, not one hair of his head shall fall to the ground. For he has worked with God this day. You know it didn't happen because Jonathan just happened to do something. You know he had to have God with him, and this has been accomplished today, and we're not having anything happen to him from that. So the people rescued Jonathan, and he did not die. And then Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. Armor-bearer believed in him, but more importantly, Jonathan believed in God, and the armor-bearer knew that. And therefore, he was a great leader to be saying, here I am. Looking ahead, next week we'll talk about Elimelech and a death messenger about Saul's death, who both will say, here I am. Not great outcomes for either one of them. I'll give you that much of a spoiler moving forward. One of those ones when you kind of wish you wouldn't have said, here I am, I guess. But anyway, we'll look at them next week. Any comments as we close? See, very careful to leave no room, even with less breath. All right, thanks. I hear the alarm. We'll cover them next week. Those are some of the scriptures if you want to look at those in preparation.